Something I need to air out a little bit. It was about 5 years ago. There was a tornado in Moore, Oklahoma. Moore, and it was the second tornado to go over the exact same, almost by the foot, area in Moore, Oklahoma, that had been totally decimated by an EF5 tornado in 1999, and this was in 2013. So 14 years later. That had never happened in recorded weather history. Now, it sounds like, well, that must happen a lot. Well, no, in fact, it's so impossible to even measure that. They couldn't come up with any odds or statistical odds, because not only was it over the same exact region, which for sure happens, but it was an EF5. And what's so unusual about that is only about 5 to 10% of all tornadoes even reach that level. So it was rare enough to have a 5, but it was even more rare for it to go over the same exact location, not to mention over 14 years. I mean, there's been a lot of records of tornadoes, a lot of them in that area, but nothing like that, especially two apart that are exactly the same strength. Now, I keep my ear to the ground, and I keep it to the sky, and I keep it to the trees. And when I saw that on the news, it was big mainstream news, because a lot of kids got killed in that, and they rebuilt all these homes that were destroyed again from the 1999 tornado, and didn't have any basements, and many children died in this tornado. So there was a lot of stuff on CNN and all the major stations about, what were they thinking? Why would they rebuild in 1999 or 2000, not having learned from the past? And I said, you know what? I'll be willing to bet you that there's some Native American connection with that. I know it's Oklahoma, which it sounds like a given, but I'll be willing to bet that exact territory right there has got something going on with it. We did something fucked up there. It's just something you pick up. You see patterns. So I go online, and I look up Moore, Oklahoma, and the first thing I saw really shocked me. The next thing I saw shocked me even more. But I didn't really get shocked, because it just confirmed some things for me. You don't have to believe the story, but for me, this is one of those validation stories. What? Well, you have intuitive messages, and they come in on certain phone lines, so to speak, but you never know which one's accurate. You know what I mean? I mean, your girlfriends can come over and say hi to Don, and of course you all think they're making pornos in a hotel room. I mean, that's really, your girlfriend's kind of pretty. I don't know where you think I would be with her, but you kind of insult her when you think that every time she leaves the house. You guys know who I'm talking to. Okay, so that phone line, I don't trust it. You guys can trust that one and get all pissed off and try to kill me or stab me because your girlfriend came by to say hi because you're being a punk, which is usually how it works. I'm not trying to get with her. I'm gay. Not literally, but metaphorically. Nonetheless, back to the story. Yeah, the area right where the EF5 tornadoes hit, well, that was not only a reservation, that was the end of the Road of Sorrow. The exact spot right there. Not only that, but my numbers are there. That's right. Highway 77. Wow, right through Moore, Oklahoma. In fact, there's a giant X drawn right in the spot. In fact, they've even made comments like, is this place like cursed for tornadoes? After I pointed this out. There are many tribes there. Chickasaw, many tribes. All gathered there. All moved up from the south, and they walked a long way from Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, all the way up to the reservation. It was known as the Road of Sorrows, right there where the tornadoes hit. But to top that, the week that the tornado hit, the second one, all the tribes in the United States, they have a yearly convention where they all meet together, and they pick different cities to meet. It could be Las Vegas, it could be in Missouri, it could be in North Dakota. The week that second tornado hit, the tribes all met in Moore, Oklahoma. Coincidence? Well, no. Me going and looking at it was not a coincidence. Even around here, I always get these signals and signs. Now, we have the Ohlone Indians around here. And it's funny because I walk Ohlone all the time. And when I do, I don't think I'm walking alone. And apparently, when I researched, they were very, very spiritual. Now, this is fascinating to me because I've seen some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you think people are possessed when they act crazy? No. You haven't seen possessed yet. You haven't seen shit fly across the room yet. It'll really convert you quick from, like, I'm spiritual, not religious, to, I'm married for the grace of the Lord is with thee. I mean, very fast. But that's not nearly as intimidating to me. Like the Exorcist movie, it's not very scary, compared to, like, the Amityville horror scenario, where people thought that was bogus, thought it was bullshit, that people wanted money, so... Well, they moved into a house. This is the true part of the story that we can validate, verify. The people who lived there before, there was a big murder there, which was a very suspicious murder. They said it was the son, because he was on drugs. They said he was using drugs until he took a shotgun and went around the house and he killed everyone in the house, in their bedrooms. The amazing thing about it is, I must have had a silencer, because no one apparently woke up from the shots. So he walked around for 5 minutes and shot each bedroom with the people sleeping exactly how they were. No one heard the booms, I guess. And he went and said to the cops, yeah, I killed him. That's odd. But then the next family moves in, and that's the famous movie, The Amityville Horror, where they lived there for 28 days. Now, what's interesting is in retrospect, you look back at this, everyone thought they were full of shit. When they made the movie, they said, oh, they wanted to make money and make a movie about it. There really wasn't that many movies about places that were like really said to have that history. This family had apparently really been terrified, so it was kind of insulting that everyone's making fun of them. And they had no idea why. They called in these specialists, and there really was no such thing then, except the first people who really studied it, actually, Jane, what was her name, Warren? She's, her and her husband are now infamous as being the number one investigators, and it started at that house. Now, this is the house where they're talking about little boys and weird things, and like little girls are running around and messing with them, molesting with them, and fucking with their heads. And this seems to be a repeated thing that at other homes that people don't report about. Yeah, they like to use little kids to get to you or something like that. Well, I mean, there were lawsuits. They said they were making up the story. They left the house. They never got money back for the house. They ended up losing money, even with the movie. They never got their money back. You know what I mean? So people said, well, it's just a bad idea for them to make up a lie. Well, so they kept investigating this house, and they set up cameras in it. There's a very famous picture. It's probably one of the best pictures that you have never seen, where it takes pictures every 1 second. Technology's gotten a little more advanced nowadays. And in one of them, you can clearly see a child's head looking around the doorway with glowing eyes. The best thing you can say is that they staged it. And we have no reason to believe they staged it, because the other thing is this. Nowadays, in all these ghost hunter movies and TV shows, all of them, every single one of them, I'm sure you've seen one of them at least. When they go to these homes, they ask a bunch of questions to make sure they can rule out what it might or might not be. The first question they almost always ask is this a Native American area? Is this a burial ground? Is this anything like that? Now, one of the reasons they say that is because years after the controversy of Amityville Horror, coincidentally, it turns out that they didn't know this. It wasn't marked or nothing. The property that house was built on not only had a burial ground, but it had the burial of a very, very infamous incident that happened with a chief that was quite scandalous. So you could read into that and say, well, that would probably cause some bitterness, to say the least. They won't even get into the details about it. But he happened to be buried directly underneath that house. Nobody knew that at the time. Nobody. It wasn't in the movie. Nobody. The people who lived there didn't know it. Nobody knew it. Archaeologists found out a decade later. But now everyone asks that when they go to houses. My point being this. I don't fuck with that energy. See, everyone thinks that they needed to be converted. They needed to change their religious ways. No, they had a very powerful God. A very powerful God. And as I said about the Oklahoma tornado, that's one example. Now, with these fires that we've been having lately, there is definitely some sort of distant connection. I know you don't think so, because if your house burns down, you're going to be like, well, I didn't do nothing to them. Again, I'm trying to emphasize to you, it has nothing to do with who you are. Even if you were Native American there, your house may have maybe even saved. I don't know what to tell you about that. Santa Rosa, tons of artifacts. They had to close down many areas because they found all these artifacts there. It turns out, like I said, the movie Poltergeist. You don't build on a goddamn graveyard. Now, the other day, I would say this makes sense to me because there's this weird group. No one knows what they are. No one's even seen them or identified them as people. Has moved into Carmel. Like, we used to be able to take your dog to Carmel Beach with open container liquor. This is like 2014. And fires and drink and have dogs off leash. People would come down from San Francisco because that was the only beach you could have dogs off leash. Then you get the New Yorkers that move in. This happens before many times in Los Angeles. They come in. Thanks. We liked visiting here. We moved in here. Now we're going to ban everything from the beaches because maybe someone came here from Salinas and shot a firecracker off. We told the cops it was a gunshot. We don't want those kind here. So this is now happening everywhere. In fact, they even come into our area and they shut down like anything that's like the cool hot dog stand because it looks ghetto to them. They don't even fucking live here. You know what I mean? So we're having issues with this unidentified mafia of people that are moving around here. But you just sense the energy there is weird. Now, the Catholic Church where Father Juan Crespi, and it's weird because there's a school in Los Angeles named Crespi, which is after the same priest, which founded the mission right down the street from where I live. In fact, I live on Mission Road, which is kind of weird. Funny coincidence. It's named after the same guy who founded the mission. And people, especially the modern-day Native American descendants, have protested. They cut off the heads off the statues of Mary and this and that. There's a burial ground there, but they can't really get anything there as a memorial because, well, the current ancestors totally say this is fuck you guys are full of shit. They protest the place all the time. The problem is this: if you look into it, the Catholic Church hid out the contrary to the rest of the U.S., it was the Spanish that were here, and Mexicans, Spanish that were here. Their soldiers were enslaving the natives. And in fact, they even protested that the missions and the church and the priests should be sent back because they couldn't go onto the mission property, the soldiers, or they'd be punished. So all the natives went and lived on the mission, but they also died there. Which meant what? Which meant nowadays everyone thinks that the Catholics at the mission killed the Native Americans. It's a obvious but unfortunate miscommunication, and clearly the modern day ancestors don't see that or want to hear that. In fact, they very much inflate the amount that they say were slaughtered. Most of them did die from illness that was probably brought here on the ships from the Spanish, the Mexican, and the from other areas. But that's not really the same as like up near San Francisco, where we had Russian guys who were killing whales and this and that. They totally raped and slaughtered many Native Americans. So everyone's lumping together like the white man thing with what happened here, and that's not really accurate. They just want to make sure someone hears them. But I read the other day, to my shock, I mean, I hope to God it was a fake story, just like everything else that the people who moved in there recently have been doing. They're digging up, so they're going to build some big new homes now in that area. And it turns out that the tractor accidentally dug up some remains of Native Americans. And the construction company got fined because, you're supposed to not only notify the tribe, but you're supposed to have someone from the tribe present. They didn't do that. No, they just kept on digging and digging up bodies and digging up bodies. Now, I have to tell you, man, if you knew what I knew, you would not fucking do that for no matter how much home insurance you got. I can't not believe you dumbasses did that. What part of history have you not known about? And they got something like $100 fine at first. I'm reading this article and I'm like, I hope to God I'm not too close to that city. Now, why do I say that? This sounds so doom and gloom and depressing. I assure you, Carmel has got some issues right now. No, you're going to catch me down there at all. I might go by the church, but you ain't going to catch me anywhere near there. Because, like I said, these fires going on right now, and I've always said, they only have one or two roads going into Carmel Valley. Man, it reminds me of the Oakland Hills area before that fire. Now, I'm not trying to rat out my brothers on the other side. In fact, they told me to tell you, watch Carmel. I didn't say now. I didn't say next year. I don't know. I don't know anything like that. I'm just saying you don't fucking tear up burial grounds and then disrespect it afterwards. And it just doesn't surprise me that there's a new group or tribe that has moved into that area who's giving us problems, wouldn't give a fuck about tearing up a burial ground. Now, I'm just telling you, I don't know if a person does it or what happens, but the earth doesn't like that. Because that was their god. Nature was their god. See, I'm a storm chaser, they told me. They said, yeah, you run towards the things other people run away from. I said, yeah. I said, how did you know that? They go, it's a storm chaser saying, right? Yeah, that's what you talk to me? Then they called me lightning tree. Now, you don't believe that, but then again, when a Native American who you don't even know comes up to you and gives you a real eagle's claw, and then a week later the cops shake you up and say, hey, where'd you get that? That's illegal. I said, no, a guy met a Native American guy. I guess that was the right answer. Why? Because you can only give it to another tribe member. They were going to try to arrest me for that, and I didn't even know it was that valuable. And he said it'll protect you from evil. I have weird days sometimes. I mean, people come up to me and say weird shit. Now, you don't have to believe that. But it would be in your best interest if you did.